Shrek. They are the best DreamWorks films in my opinion. They have it all. The animation, the epic story, the music, the characters, and they do have a few chunks of hidden secrets which I've made a few videos in the past digging apart. I'd recommend you watch my video on Fiona and Shrek and the Godmother before you watch this one, because a large chunk of evidence I'll be using in this video roots from that other one. So the fairy godmother, also known as Dama Fortuna, is a driven, intelligent, psychotic businesswoman and A-list celebrity who basically rules the social setting of Far, Far Away. Her past is shrouded in mystery, and sure as hell is not anything like the Cinderella fairy godmother's past, so who is she? What other plans has she enacted? How do they all tie together? I have the answers. Hello, I'm the Theorizer, and this is not just any ordinary fairy godmother. She's a scientist, a genius one, whose magic stems from her knowledge of chemistry and alchemy, as proven by her factory. I don't even really think she's a biological fairy, just someone who is self-mutated with chemicals. Her wand, of course, isn't the source of her magic, it's just simply a conduit of magic flow from inside of her, as we know because its lights go out when she dies. Anyways, she's first and foremost a businesswoman, but uses her celebrity status to give and get anything she wants to and from anyone she wants. And she doesn't care if the person she's helping is morally flawed. She'll do anything because she herself is morally flawed. As we can see on the walls in her factory, she has helped many people with their happy endings, including the Wicked Witch of the West, whom she made even more evil. Something is seriously wrong with her if she's going to weird lengths to help even the villains, but that's not all. DreamWorks tried to hide this one, but if you pause the frame right before Shrek walks into her office, you can see a before and after of Cinderella's stepsister. The fairy godmother turned the step-sibling from male to female, as we can see. However, we actually meet the step-sibling, and they seem to still be transgender. So did the fairy godmother use her magic in a way that could blackmail the step-sibling? I'm not too sure, but this frame is hidden in a fraction of a second, and DreamWorks has a love of hiding things like this in half frames. So, she's a blackmailing A-list businesswoman and professional megalomaniacal psychopath, but that's just her personality, not her backstory or motives. If you ended up watching my other Shrek video on Fiona and the Godmother, then you know that I'm 95% certain, that the witch they talk about, who cursed Fiona to become an ogre at night, was in fact the fairy godmother herself, so that she could swoop in and save the day. I believe this heavily to be the case, and so do many others. And while this whole thing with Fiona may have been her biggest plan as it involved the future of her son, what may have been her other plans, and how do they tie into all of this? Many people in Far, Far Away seem to be generally miserable. More accurately, the villains. They all hang out in the Poison Apple Tavern, and so did Harold the Frog before he got his happy ending. And it's my great belief that the fairy godmother has done something utterly wicked. She has intentionally gone around and used her magic to interfere with the lives of several people so that she can swoop in and save their days. Not just Fiona. But the fact that she very likely did do this to Fiona leads me to believe that she's done this to everyone she's saved. It makes sense too. She's not using magic to fix them, she's just undoing the magic she already used to make them miserable. Her potions are intentionally appealing sounding, but some of them are downright evil, and are likely used for such. The other reason I believe she's making everyone miserable is because her slogan is happiness, just a teardrop away, and she has made herself summonable by someone crying. She induces this. She makes their lives suck. It's her thing, but her intelligence and strategic nature leads me to believe that she's not doing this for fame or some other petty goal. I believe fame is just a stepping stone to what she really wants, but I don't know what that is yet. In Shrek 3, Prince Charming immediately went to the Poison Apple to recruit villains once he was out of options and his mother died. Everyone in there hated him at first for some reason, but then they all warmed up to him when he promised them their happy endings back. And they hopped all over it because their happiness has been stripped from them. Charming knew the backup was to appeal to the people she ruined. Charming himself, I think, might even be a byproduct of Dama Fortuna's even greater plan, which involves herself and herself alone. Charming was a child she created, or perhaps birthed, simply to get herself on top of Far, Far Away. But she was already on top in regards to the social setting. Her plan with Charming involved getting on the top of its political and royal setting. Charming isn't real, he's a fake boy created by the Godmother. This is additionally seen in how he was utterly lost without her guidance and reverted to the failsafe of undoing the misery and the villains she created. I think more specifically that these villains were created by the Godmother not only to give her something to fix, but to contrast Cinderella and the other princesses she fixed. If she creates villains, the happiness of the heroes is almost certainly assured. She did this to make the happiness of others more potent, as no hero can exist without a villain. But getting on top of the royal chain in Far, Far Away is what she wants, though I'm still trying to figure out why. She's power-starved, but I think she aims to do something with it all. Her plot started way back when she ruined the life of a small frog, making him yearn for the life of being a human. In doing so, she introduced him to Lillian, a woman whose life she most likely also ruined. As we know, Lillian's family used to be the royalty governing Far, Far Away, and this was the Godmother's first step into worming her way into the system. Once their marriage was assured, she poisoned the daughter of Harold and Lillian, making her an ogre by night. Godmother created a son who she named Charming, and she had Harold indoctrinate his daughter into being entranced by the concept of a charming prince who'd save her. Funny how she literally named him Charming. It's all a part of the scheme to mesmerize Fiona, which worked, as we see, in her obsessive diary. But why wait so long to save Fiona? Why send Charming at a very specific time after Shrek just saved her? Kind of extremely coincidental, right? Why would Charming show up right after and not way before? It's statistically improbable for these events to happen so close together. So, then, there's only one logical answer to this, and it's the fact that the fairy godmother intentionally sent him right after Shrek saved Fiona and they began their honeymoon. Clearly, Prince Charming was unaware of this plan the godmother had in mind, and she blatantly lied to him about it constantly. Even in the carriage, she kind of takes over and starts screaming the same thing he screamed. This is only further proof that her son is the means to an end. But why would she wait for Shrek to save Fiona? I think I know. She needed Shrek to be there so that she could save Fiona again, to fool Harold and Lillian. She needed to swoop in and break apart their love. Shrek, or really any other rescuer for that matter, needed to save Fiona. Ever notice how the Happily Ever After potion is the only potion that is intentionally labeled with an incredibly appealing title and sticker behind a very important looking glass display? Notice how she smiles when the pigeon informs her that Shrek did indeed steal it? She acts like she was surprised at the theft when around Charming, but her smirk implies that she's pleased her plan is following through. So yes, I believe the fairy godmother sent Charming in right after Shrek began his honeymoon, simply to test Harold's allegiance to her and their plan. She needed to make a big introduction to Fiona, and the only way to do that would be to break her and make her require further happiness, or in other words, allow an ogre into Fiona's life and shock Harold with it. Harold's spastic dinner fight with Shrek is all because, of course, he was furious that the godmother's plan didn't follow through. He was mad because he didn't want his own happy ending revoked by her. This was all the fairy godmother toying with him, like she does to everybody. She needed this dinner table argument to happen so that Fiona would feel torn and distraught, so that the entrance the godmother made could have as much potency as possible. She was just waiting for Fiona outside. This is proof of it. She only appears if you cry into one of her business cards, not if you cry into nothingness. This means that she'd have been monitoring, waiting, which, yes, by extension, means that she wanted Shrek to save Fiona first. What a psychotic thing she is. She staged the entire film's plot. She has wormed her way into royalty, and in her attempt to be good enough for Fiona, she has become a celebrity by manipulating several other princesses. This was all for Fiona because she needed Charming to become king, because she needed to become the ruler of Far, Far Away. But why? Personally, I think she wants to lead all of the land with evil power. She wants everything. Citizens to bow before her. Similar to what Rumpelstiltskin wanted in Shrek 4, but why this? Well, most villains with determination as great as hers, with an endgame as arbitrary as this, had at one point felt inferior in their life, whether they were bullied, tormented, whatever. So I feel that's what's happened to Dama Fortuna. She made herself a fairy, gave herself magic, all to compensate for something that tormented her in her past. Quite honestly, I believe it was the previous royals, Lillian's family. I feel like something happened with them, because it seems to be the most sensible in this situation, with how she wants to dominate the kingdom that wronged her. This is besides the fact that Lillian blatantly tells Harold that she does not trust the fairy godmother. Something happened in Lillian's family history that ruined the fairy godmother's mentality, and this is her revenge. She used to be a witch, but now she's a witch posing as a fairy. This is her sick, complex, psychotic, twisted revenge, and I'm not sure what kind of things the royals did to her. Most likely, though, they shunned her because of her magical ways out of fear. I might go into this more later, but for now, I'm the Theorizer.